Yeah.
So the book is split up into two sections. The first section is on science, and then the second section is on morality. So let's just talk briefly, and we're working our way through the book. In fact, I'm not sure when this particular show is going to be introduced. So some of this might be, we should probably give spoiler alerts if we're not going to be at the end of the book. But so let's talk about the science part and then the morality part. So tell us a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish here in the science, the first half of the book here.
Yeah. So and actually it's three parts. So there's a little part at the very beginning where I talk about just our intellectual faculties, so sense perception and reason.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I left that out.
Run through that and bring up basically a lot of the questions that Hume had, and he had some great points and stuff that Plantinga has brought up. All of that I think is good. That if we were just, as Russell said, collocation of atoms, we would have lots of reasons to doubt our sense perception and our reason, and to doubt our doubting, and on and on and on. So that's what I do in that very first little part, to get that out of the way. And then I say, okay, let's set all of that aside. Let's just assume that our cognitive faculties, our sense perception, our reason is as reliable as you want.
Right.
So everything works really well, and it gloms on to the truth.
Right.
So we'll take our cognitive faculties for granted. Well, what's the next step? Well, let's see. It seems like
so the idea is, what can we know from there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And well, if most atheists would say, well, let's look to science.
Right.
Sure. With an understanding that science is kind of like this, as you call it, photoshopped version, where it seems squeaky clean and neat, and it almost takes out the human factor of doing science.
Yeah, it really does. It's the science that people have in mind is this, and it's interesting. The scientists even talk like this too. That it's really this squeaky clean, highly sanitized, like you said, Photoshop version of it, and it's just so. I think that sells science short. Like the scientists are doing things that are way harder and way more creative and way more intuitive. It takes intellectual skill. It takes creative artistry. I'm an enormous fan of science, and but real science, because it's like, man, these humans do some really hard stuff, and they kind of do things sometimes intuitively, which is, like a musician would, rather than like a logician would, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, but you're not. So science is good. It's helpful. It's tough. But so you're not really criticizing it, but you're questioning. So what exactly are you trying to get at with this then?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're right. I'm not science bashing in the least.
Right.
I'm so pro science. So I'm very, very pro STEM, math, science, engineering, all of that. There's really two ditches, and that's kind of like, I try to teach my students this. Look, guys, if there's one thing I want to teach you is, for most of these issues in life, you're trying to avoid two ditches on either side of the road. And so when it comes to science, you have, on the one hand, people who think that, science is infallible, and, that they way overestimate it in terms of its abilities. But then you have the other ditch where people underestimate it, and they think, well, just because it's, on the one hand, on the optimistic side, you have people saying, "No, well, it must be true because science says it,"
right.
And then on the other side, you have people say, "Well, it must be false because science says it." and really, neither side is consistent at all. But that's kind of their tenor and their sentiments. And I don't want us to do that. So part of this is to point out the limitations of science. I mean, so that's really the main part. So I'm really going after that one ditch, the overly optimistic ditch. But there's still a part of me that's a little wary of that project, because I don't want people in the other ditch taking hold of this
right,
and abusing it.
right, right.